In the past few months at Santa Rosa City Schools, we've seen school closures rush through, teachers and staff abruptly fired, and a complete overhaul of our middle and high school structure, all under the leadership of a superintendent whose hiring was controversial from day one. As a parent with kids in the district and someone who tries to stay involved, I've been following this story closely. And today, I want to walk you through exactly what's happening with Santa Rosa City Schools, how we got here, and what it means for our families moving forward. Because the more I dig into this, the more one thing becomes clear. This didn't have to happen this way. Let's start with the big picture, the budget. Santa Rosa City Schools is facing a projected deficit of over $20 million. And while that number is alarming, what's even more troubling is the fact that this didn't happen overnight. The district has been losing students for more than a decade, from over 15,000 in 2012 to under 13,000 today. Fewer students means less state funding. That's not new information. The warning signs have been there. Enrollment trends, facility use reports, demographic shifts, all pointing to the need for action. But instead of addressing the issue in phases, instead of having tough conversations when it would have made a difference, leadership did very little. For a time, COVID relief funds helped mask the problem, but those funds were always temporary, and when they expired, the shortfall became unavoidable. By late 2024, the board finally acknowledged the scale of the deficit, but by then, the only options left were dramatic ones: school closures, staff layoffs, and massive restructuring. And here's the part that's hard to hear as a parent. This could have been avoided. With better planning and more transparency, we could have made smaller, more manageable changes years ago. But that didn't happen. Leadership failed to act, and now families, teachers, and students are paying the price. Before the consolidation decisions were even finalized, the district was already in transition. In spring of 2024, Superintendent Anna Trinnell announced her resignation. And while she officially cited a desire to move closer to family, her departure came at a time of mounting pressure, including staffing challenges, safety concerns, and ongoing unrest across campuses. With a major financial crisis looming, the board had its work cut out for it. Choosing the next superintendent would be one of the most important decisions they'd face. Ultimately, the board selected current Superintendent Daisy Morales, someone who had recently resigned from her previous role at Live Oak School District in Santa Cruz County after facing a vote of no confidence from her own teachers' union. That vote came amid a $2.9 million budget shortfall and growing accusations of mismanagement and poor communication. To put things in perspective, Live Oak School District had about 2,100 students in total. In contrast, Santa Rosa City Schools serves more than 12,000 students across a far more complex network of elementary, middle, and high schools. The scale, challenges, and expectations here are significantly greater. And that makes the decision to bring her in, especially amid financial crisis, all the more questionable. And I'll be honest, I wish I had paid more attention at the time. I'm a parent, I'm involved at my kid's school, but I still assumed the board would make the right call. I assumed that someone with little experience in a smaller district and recent controversy wouldn't be brought into a district already on shaky ground. Unfortunately, what happened next only made things worse. When news of potential school closures first came out, the district proposed what they called the 3-1-1 plan, the closure and consolidation of 3 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. In response, the district formed a school consolidation advisory committee, made up of parents, educators, and community members. The goal was to bring transparency and public input into the process. But almost immediately, there were cracks. Some schools, like my kids' Hidden Valley Elementary, had no direct representation on the committee. A process meant to include everyone ended up excluding many. And beyond the lack of representation, there was also a lack of direction. From what I saw and heard, the committee was given very little framework to operate within. They spent months evaluating the 3-1-1 plan, running scenarios, gathering feedback, and analyzing what those closures would mean for individual sites. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. The 3-1-1 plan was scrapped in favor of something entirely different: a full closure of all district-run middle schools and a dramatic restructuring of our high schools to create 7th through 12th grade campuses. And it's important to acknowledge why this shift happened. The revised plan was partly designed to save LCL in high school. That campus has had its share of challenges, but it's also the only high school serving a large portion of Santa Rosa's southwest side, and its existence is absolutely essential to the families who depend on it. Still, even with good intentions, the timeline was rushed, the communication was unclear, and for many of us, it felt like months of thoughtful work and community input had just been brushed aside. Now, instead of just a few sites closing, every single middle schooler in the district is being asked to change course. And in many cases, that means attending school on a campus with high school juniors and seniors. I'll speak more on that as a parent later in the video, but from a logistical standpoint alone, this has been and continues to be a massive challenge for the district to implement. As the district asked for our trust, as they told us we're in this together and emphasized the need for transparent communication, something very different was happening behind the scenes. Without warning, scores of well-liked staff members and administrators were let go. There was no public statement, no preparation, no explanation. Just notices delivered quietly and in many cases coldly. This wasn't just a policy decision, it was a betrayal of the values the district claimed to uphold. There was every opportunity to communicate clearly, to say, here's what's happening, here's what we have to do, here's why, and here's how we'll support our staff and community through it. There's no shortage of tools to convey this type of message in a time where communication is key and has been promised. Emails, social media, even video messages. But instead, we got silence. And when Superintendent Morales was asked to explain these decisions, her answers felt more like damage control than leadership. It was hard not to look back at her exit from Live Oak School District. These dismissals weren't just administrative, they felt arbitrary, even retaliatory. Educators and staff who had voiced concerns, who had pushed back, or asked hard questions were some of the first to go. It didn't take long for a fallout to spread. A vote of no confidence in Superintendent Morales passed with 97% of teachers supporting it. That doesn't happen because one tough decision. That happens when people feel unsafe, unheard, and pushed aside. Leadership, especially in hard times, means being willing to stand in the fire. It means taking responsibility and facing your community head on. Superintendent Morales is paid over $260,000 a year, and with that role comes a responsibility to lead from the front, not from behind closed doors. Families like mine deserve answers, not silence, and staff deserve better than to be pushed out with no explanation. So where does that leave us? The district is moving forward with its new plan. All traditional middle schools are set to close. High schools will become 7th through 12th grade campuses, and 3 elementary schools are being shuttered: Albert Biela, Brook Hill, and Steel Lane. But here's the timeline that matters. Albert Biela and Brook Hill are set to close in less than 2 months, at the end of the school year. Those students will be absorbed into neighboring campuses almost immediately. Some of those students, just 10 or 11 years old, will be leaving the only school they've ever known and heading straight into high school campuses. That's no small shift. Steel Lane Elementary will remain open for 1 more year, closing at the end of the 2025-2026 school year. For now, our family has some breathing room. Our daughters are in kindergarten and 2nd grade, and we'll do everything we can to welcome Steel Lane families when they join us next year. But I'd be lying if I said we weren't looking at other options. I grew up in the neighboring town of Windsor, and while that district has its challenges, what's happening in Santa Rosa right now feels different. I want to believe that things can be turned around. But if families like mine are considering leaving, that spells serious trouble for a district that's already struggling with low enrollment. And this isn't a steady problem, it's a compounding one. The more families that leave, the less funding the district receives. The fewer resources schools have, the harder it is to retain staff and students. It's an exponential decline, and one that almost certainly ends with state takeover if nothing changes. The district had support of parents and educators for a time, but now the support is hanging on by a thread. Is it too late to save this district? Unfortunately, you and I are going to have to wait for the next installment of this series to find out. So if you want to follow this issue as it develops, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future updates. And if you're a parent who's in the middle of all of this, trying to decide what's best for your family, and you want to have a serious conversation about your options, I'm always happy to provide any insight and help however I can.